Crystal Palace have had an up and down season, sacking Patrick Vieira whilst on the brink of relegation to being rescued with Roy's return, managing to finish a solid mid-table. After coming through the ranks at the South London club, Wilfried Zaha has finally decided to part ways, but in this FIFA 23 alternate universe, instead of joining another club, he's decided to hang up his boots and return as manager of the club, ready to take the team back in a completely new direction and maybe win a trophy along the way. Safe to say, when reviewing this Crystal Palace squad and starting 11, it isn't the best and really highlights how he was carrying the team on his back for the last few years. With no one in the starting 11 rated in the 80s, massive work is needed in Zaha's first managerial job. For all of this talk though, Palace do have some fantastic young players that Zaha will be keen to build the club around. After joining Palace from the Chelsea Academy in 2021, Mark Gay has established himself as a fine Premier League defender with international experience across all of the England ranks, and now starting to break into the senior national team, Zaha will be hoping he can be the cornerstone of this defence for the foreseeable future. Michael Elise, known for being able to carve defences apart with his creativity and flair, and Eze, a man many are hoping can pick up the mantle that Zaha has left behind, are the two most exciting attacking talent at the club that Zaha will really be relying on to score and create goals this season. The current formation has Eze playing in the centre of a three-man midfield, but having played with him and knowing how to get the best out of him, Zaha has decided to switch things up and move to a 4-2-3-1 and move Eze into the hole behind the striker, where he feels he'll be at his most dangerous. With Zaha's retirement though, a glaringly obvious area of concern for Palace is replacing him on the left-hand side, with a 30-year-old soon-to-be out of contract Jordan Ayew not good enough to take his place. But with only £42 million to spend for Zaha to try and replace not only himself in the starting 11, but also try to bolster other areas of the squad, it's a tough ask for the newly appointed man. However, he's starting his reign by being brutal. He's been there for many years, he knows which players aren't going to make the cut under his management, and he's happy to say goodbye to them. Departures include the likes of James Tompkins to Swasulo for £980k, Nathaniel Klein goes to Getafe for £2.8 million, Leicester agree a £5 million fee that will see Will Hughes depart, and a second central midfielder in Rilderwald will leave to Toulouse for 4.9, and Milojevic also makes it a hat-trick of midfielders heading to Mallorca for 1.8 million. Zaha initially planned to allow the likes of Joel Ward to leave, but with the departures so far, he's reconsidered his stance, recognising that some experience will be needed in the squad whilst he tries to implement his new playing style, and he's decided to keep him, which is something that Ward seems to recognise and is extremely grateful for. Having been at the club for so many years and understanding his place in the Crystal Palace folklore, Zaha knows he needs someone equally as maverick to replace him on the left-hand side of midfield. And with him on his way out of Newcastle, but instead of going to Saudi, him still keen to retain his status as a Premier League player, it looks like Zaha has landed his first signing of the summer as Palace fans say hello to former Newcastle star Alan Saint-Maximin for £30 million. Central midfield is the next area of concern for Zaha, with him keen to bolster the heart of his midfield with a young, powerful player who can follow the Palace ethos of growing and developing at the club. Having gained World Cup experience at such a young age, Azzedine Onahi is an agile midfielder with excellent dribbling skills and outstanding tactical awareness. And after securing a bargain of £13.8 million from Marseille, he could well become a star in the centre of the park. Nathaniel Klein leaving the club means Joel Ward is the only remaining right-back, and while Zaha values his experience, he also isn't sure he's good enough to be the club's starting right-back this season. But with only £8 million left to spend, he's going to have to be sensible in his decision for who he decides to bring in ahead of him, and with him being priced out of a deal for his first choice, Divine Wrench from Ajax, he's managed to secure a deal for his second choice, a young man who started to pull up trees in the Championship, and someone who'll be eager to play under Zaha's guidance and experience Premier League football for the first time in his career. 21-year-old Jayden Bogle joins from Sheffield United for £5.6 million. And having come through the ranks at the club for himself, Zaha knows all too well the importance of having homegrown talent, and whilst the board don't see it as a priority, he'll be taking a watchful eye over the youth academy, in particular the progress of 17-year-old left-back Arthur Bernard, who doesn't look too far away from promotion to the senior squad, one to watch out for as the season progresses. And so with our three new additions going straight into the starting 11, Zaha's in high spirits as he entertains the media before his very first game of the season. He and the club are feeling incredibly positive as the team heads to Fulham in search of 3 vital points. And they've every right to be positive, as a goal on his debut from Saint-Maximin is the perfect way to introduce himself to the Palace faithful and claim 3 points in the season opener. But with Nathan Ferguson becoming the final man to leave the club before the end of the transfer window, departing to Norwich for £1.35 million, that leaves Mitchell as the only recognised senior left-back in the squad. Zaha has taken the opportunity a little bit earlier than planned to promote youngster Arthur Bernard to the senior squad, showing that in spite of the new faces, he's still willing to invest in the academy and the very foundations of the club. And Bernard is thrown right into the deep end, getting the chance to impress immediately in the second round of the Carabao Cup against Hartlepool. But not only did he impress, but a goal after 16 minutes helped us along to a 4-1 thumping and proved exactly why Zaha is so high on him right now. And so, as the season rolls on, Palace find themselves in a fairly respectable 13th place at the midway stage. Morale seems to be high, with Jayden Bogle in particular delighted with the number of opportunities he's getting this season. But just when things are on the up, star man Michael Olise suffers a season-ending injury, breaking his toe and breaking our momentum as we end up finishing in 12th place in the table. A decent finish in the end, but perhaps Zaha may have been hoping for higher. Mateta displaced Odegaard as our main striker, topping the goal-scoring charts with 14 goals in the end, and Olise could well have made it to double figures, unfortunately finishing with 9. 6 goals and 4 assists from Saint-Maximin is a fairly decent start to life in Palace colours, but Zaha will no doubt be hoping for more from him next season. As Season 2 begins with £52 million injection into the transfer budget, and after conceding a shed load of goals last year and an ageing Vicente Gaeta retiring at the end of the season, goalkeeper is where we're going to start. After competing with Keylor Navas at Nottingham Forest all of last season, as he's returned to United, Dean Henderson has been told he's surplus to requirements. Having played for United all those years ago, Zaha still has some contacts at the club and is allowed to do a cut price deal for the 26-year-old, agreeing a £16.3 million fee, plus adding Jack Butland, who spent last season on loan at United, to become the first signing of the summer and our brand new number 1. Having been displaced in the starting 11 last season, Odegaard has declared to Zaha that he wants to leave the club and ends up departing for £14.1 million. Luckily though, Zaha has already got a ready-made replacement in mind. After scoring 21 times in France last season, Florent Balogun has returned to Arsenal in desperate search of first-team football, but with Arteta unable to give him any guarantees though, he's decided he wants to leave, and Zaha is ready to swoop in. With a £22 million fee agreed, he becomes signing number 2. With the retirement of MacArthur and Jeffrey Schlupp deciding to seek pastures new in Berlin, central midfield is the next item on the agenda, and with a plethora of more defence-minded midfielders, Zaha has decided to go with someone more of his ilk to add a little bit more creativity to the centre of the park. Simon Sikowski joins from Fiorentina for 9.6. After a reasonable start to life in Palace colours, Saint-Maximin has established himself as not only the first-choice left winger, but the only left winger at the club. However, instead of spending what is left of the transfer budget, Zaha has decided once again to put his faith in youth. The now 20-year-old Hezron Rakzaki is someone who I'm sure many Palace fans have their eye on, and Zaha does too. He's a right winger now, but he thinks he's also got the potential to play on the left, so he's training him as an understudy to Saint-Maximin, another one to look out for this season. After keeping Joel Ward at the club last season, Zaha has finally decided that he is surplus to requirements, and it's time for a real competitor to Jayden Bogle to join the club. After falling out of favour with some injury issues at Brighton, Tariq Lamptey is desperate to reignite his career at another Premier League team. Fortunately for him, Zaha is more than willing to give him that opportunity. For £11.6 million, he becomes the 4th and final signing of the summer. With the team looking ready ahead of the start of the season, Zaha is hopeful the club can have a better campaign this time around, and with half the season gone, his hopes have become reality as Palace are up to 7th place in the table, just 3 points off the final Europa League spot, but being close enough isn't enough as the board are demanding qualification. Balogun is the shining light of the season so far, picking up from where he left off in France with 11 goals, and Olise has already matched his goal tally from last season, and if he keeps this up, some of the bigger teams may well come calling in the summer. Fast forward to the end of the season though, and not only did he keep it up, but he ended up overtaking Balogun to become our top goalscorer this season. An unfortunate injury to Balogun towards the end of the season meant his form tailed off, and Mateta ended up forcing his way back into the starting 11, and with his injury our momentum slowed, with us finishing up in 8th place. A brilliant position for Palace in real life, but in typical FIFA fashion it still wasn't good enough for the board. Losing out to City in the FA Cup semis meant missing out on our first opportunity of silverware as well. And with some of the bigger clubs in Europe sniffing around at some of our top talent, when will be the next time that we can get that close to silverware? And as Season 3 begins, not only has that idea become a reality, but our defence has been absolutely obliterated. Firstly, Arteta, eager to bolster his defence for another title charge, decides to swoop in for a £57.9 million move that sees Mark Guéhi finally get his move to a top 6 club. With Joachim Andersen frustrated seeing his defence partner getting a move he so desperately craved, he requests a transfer out of the club, and Fiorentina are only happy enough to take him for £26 million. And after our defence is ruined, the icing on the cake comes with Michael Olise soon following them both at the door, agreeing a club record deal with AC Milan for £96.6 million, as the young Frenchman finally gets Champions League football that Palace just couldn't offer him. These transfers have given Zaha a whopping £223 million to spend, the biggest budget Palace have ever had, but with the team on its knees after losing 3 of its best players, he's going to have to work some serious transfer market magic to try and raise the spirits of the squad. And he's starting in the centre of defence. With the core of his leadership team in the squad now gone, he's desperate to bring in a big powerful centre-back with leadership qualities. A crucial player who can come in and immediately improve the starting 11. And in Greek centre-back Konstantinos Mavropanos, he's finally got his man. He never quite made the grade at Arsenal, but having gone to Germany to reignite his career with 19 caps for his country, he's back in the Premier League to prove Arsenal wrong. £32 million is enough to secure our first signing of the summer. However, with two centre-backs gone, Zaha has one more replacement he wants to find, and this time he wants someone younger who can realistically be at the club and at the heart of our defence for many seasons to come. With numerous caps at various youth levels for France, Omar Soleil seems to fit the bill as he joins from Mallorca for £19 million. Last season, frustrated with a lack of game time, Raksaki requested a loan move away from the club, but the departure of Elise opens the door for the 22-year-old to get his chance in the first team, and with Zaha having so much faith in his potential, he's made a bold move not to bring anyone else in to replace Elise, and instead put all of his effort into trying to unlock the undoubted potential of this man. Whether that works out, time will tell. And with three of his star men leaving, it makes it even more important when looking closer to home that he secures the long-term future of some of his others. With only 1 year left on the contracts of Tyreek Mitchell and Eze, Zaha swoops in, agreeing a new 4-year deal with both, and with the departure of Anderson, naming Eze as the new club captain to kick off what feels like a new era at Crystal Palace Football Club. In more transfer news, a new backup goalkeeper joins on a free transfer, but with the board still desperate to see a crucial midfield player join the club, Zaha has one more gap to fill this window. And after racking up over 60 appearances for Rennes in the French league and starting to establish himself as one of his country's top prospects with 22 caps to his name, Croatian Lovro Majer joins from Real Sociedad for £49.1 million. It's the first real signing of the summer that isn't a replacement for a player and genuinely comes in and improves the team. Now, there are mixed feelings around Selhurst Park heading into the new season. Some nervous about the departure of our three best players and what it might mean for the season ahead. Others excited to see our new players show themselves in the red and blue colours of Palace. One thing's for sure though, the pressure will be on Zaha if the club doesn't at least equal its performance last season. And as we get to the midway point of the season, there is absolute reason for concern. The big departures have hit us hard and the club are struggling. The arrival of Lovro Majer has struck a chord with Ezzedine Onahi, who is furious, hands in a transfer request and ends up departing the club to Inter Milan for £26 million just after 2.5 seasons. And by the start of the January transfer window, the club have been dragged back into a relegation fight. Just when Zaha thought he was moving in the right direction, departures and ropey recruitment have pulled the club back down. The experiment of Raksaki as our main right winger just has not worked, and so Zaha has decided to act fast, finally being decisive and bringing in a playmaker who can immediately improve the team and pick up the mantle that Elise left behind. He didn't make the grade at Spurs, but went to Sporting Lisbon to prove his worth, and now he's back in England, ready to show the Premier League what he can do. Marcus Edwards joins for £42 million, but with his former club knocking us out of the FA Cup 4th round way before the board's objective of at least a semi-final appearance, and with just 8 games remaining, and with the club just hovering still over the relegation zone, Zaha's place at the club is in a critical state. And despite him hitting every other objective the club has set, and despite him being an icon at Crystal Palace, the FIFA gods have spoken once again, and with only a few games remaining before the end of the season, Zaha was sacked as manager of Crystal Palace. A shocking decision and a shocking way to treat a former player turned manager, and with Palace managing to survive in the Premier League in the end, he has every right to feel aggrieved. But the Premier League is a cruel world, and Zaha has found out the hard way. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you again next time.